1,500 meters.
1,500 meters now for the Soyuz before it touches down southeast of Bkazkhstan. Obviously everything going by the book, even though communications have been very sparse during the time since the Soyuz executed its deorbit burn at 8:16 p.m. Central Time. All communications and data now being relayed through the search and recovery forces and the Antonov 26, a fixed-wing aircraft serving as an airborne command center, relaying information back to the Russian flight control team in Korolyov. And again, this is video.
We are ready at 1,000 meters altitude. Everything is fine on board. Thank you.
Inside 1,000 meters for the Soyuz. Once again, this is live from the landing site southeast of Bkazkhstan. The Soyuz heading for a touchdown just minutes from now.
You ready here? Yes. Copy, getting ready for landing. Inaudible. (360 reference altitude).
The Soyuz in its final moments of entry, zeroing in on its landing site southeast of Bkazkhstan.
(400 here). 300 meters? Yes. Getting ready for landing. Between crew members.
We're standing by for confirmation of touchdown. Should be imminent. Temperatures at the landing site that you're looking at around 20 degrees Fahrenheit, some ground fog, obviously thicker clouds that had originally been forecast. Standing by for confirmation of the Soyuz touchdown. This is Mission Control Houston, still standing by for confirmation through the Russian search and recovery forces of the touchdown of the Soyuz TMA-14M spacecraft. Still waiting for confirmation of the touchdown of the Soyuz spacecraft. The search and recovery forces obviously in the area of the landing zone, but the visibility, as you can see from this ground-based camera from one of the all-terrain vehicles, is shows fairly dense fog in the area. So we're standing by for confirmation. The last report received from the Soyuz spacecraft a few minutes before touchdown indicated that everything was proceeding normally. This is Mission Control Houston. The words on the front screen at the Mission Control Center in Korolyov, Jest Posadka. The words, "they've landed," and that has now been confirmed through the Russian search and recovery forces, who also report that the Soyuz landed in a vertical upright position. We can't give you an exact time of landing, but everything was tracking towards an on-time landing at around 9:07 p.m. Central Time, 10:07 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:07 a.m. by Kazakhstan time on Thursday morning. So the Expedition 42 crew is back on Earth. We are still standing by for some additional contact with the crew on board the Soyuz spacecraft, but they have landed in a vertical position upright on the steppe of Kazakhstan, some 92 statute miles to the southeast of the town of Bkazkhstan. The search and recovery forces, the Russian Mi-8 helicopters dispatched from both Zhezkazgan and Karaganda to the northeast of the landing zone, are beginning to make their way towards a sequential landing one by one around the vicinity of the spacecraft, which again landed at approximately 9:07 p.m. Central Time. The search and recovery forces confirmed that it landed in an upright position. To recap, the deorbit burn of the This is Mission Control Houston. Reports continuing to come in from the landing site that the first of the search and recovery forces, those helicopters, there are 10 Russian Mi-8 helicopters at the prime landing zone. Two of the Russian Mi-8s were downrange to the southwest of the prime landing site. In the event, the Soyuz would have landed short of its intended target. However, the helicopters are now landing in sequential fashion, and personnel are gathering around the Soyuz spacecraft to begin attending to the post-landing operations. The Soyuz landing in an upright position. To recap our activities earlier this evening, the Soyuz with Butch Wilmore, Alexander Samokutyaev, and Elena Sarova on board undocked from the Poisk module, the space-facing docking port on the Russian segment of the International Space Station at 5:44 p.m. Central Time. A pair of separation maneuvers enabled the Soyuz to back away to a distance of about 12 kilometers away from the station. For the start of the deorbit burn, the engine firing to bring the Soyuz home that occurred at 8:16 p.m. Central Time. The deorbit burn, although communications was lost about 1 minute and 30 seconds into the deorbit burn, the brief communications that were reestablished with Soyuz Commander Alexander Samokutyaev indicated that everything was going normally. The parachutes deployed as planned, and the Soyuz landed at approximately 9:07 p.m. Central Time, 10:07 p.m. Eastern Time, at the intended landing site southeast of Zhezkazgan, landing in a vertical upright position. there is the Soyuz TMA-14M spacecraft as the initial team of search and recovery forces have established a ladder around the top hatch of the descent module. The temperatures are hovering around the 20-degree mark, ground fog in the area, and obviously snow on the ground from the frontal system that passed through the south-central region of Kazakhstan over the past 48 hours. RSC Energia in charge of the initial phase of getting the hatch open and beginning the extraction of the crew as they go through their post-landing procedures. The winds were very light in the landing zone this morning. This landing occurring about 26 minutes after sunrise. The initial search and recovery helicopters landing very quickly within minutes after the Soyuz itself touched down. The search and recovery forces have established communications with the crew inside the Soyuz, and as you can see, are setting up the chairs that the crew one by one will be helped into for a few minutes. A photo opportunity for photographers who will be on site, plus a chance for the crew members to regain a bit of their Earth legs, if you will, with gravity now reinitiated into their bodies after 167 days in space. The crew landed just about on time, the approximate landing time of 9:07 p.m. Central Time, completing 2,672 orbits of the Earth in a mission that spanned 70,798,628 statute miles. Alexander Samoukhtyaev having spent 331 days in space on his second of two flights. Butch Wilmore, 178 days in space on his two flights. Elena Serova, 167 days in space on this, her first flight into space. During their time on orbit, Wilmore, Samoukhtyaev, and Serova greeted two Russian Progress cargo ships, one Soyuz crew vehicle, one SpaceX Dragon resupply craft. They supervised the final undocking of the European Space Agency's final automated transfer vehicle, and were involved in our discussions with them during the maiden flight of the Orion spacecraft on its first exploration flight test back in early December. These three crew members, once they have an opportunity to go into either an inflatable medical tent nearby or directly into the helicopters, that yet to be determined by the Russian search and recovery forces, they ultimately will be helicoptered back to the staging city in Karaganda to the northeast of the landing site. Butch Wilmore will board a NASA plane for a flight back to Houston. The two cosmonauts, Samoukhtyaev and Serova, will board a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft for a flight back to Chkalovsky Airfield outside of their training base in Star City, Russia. Typically, the first crew member to be extracted from the vehicle is the Soyuz commander. So we are likely to see Alexander Samokutyaev extracted first from the center seat of the Soyuz. The RSC Energia and Russian search and recovery personnel working to extract the crew. The Soyuz landing vertically, that tends to expedite the crew's departure from the Soyuz spacecraft. As the search and recovery forces work to begin the extraction of the crew, they'll be helped down this short ladder and carried one by one to the nearby reclining chairs so that they have a few minutes to regain equilibrium and get their land legs back a bit before they move ahead with their post-landing operations. Aboard the International Space Station, Expedition 43, formally underway at the time of the Soyuz undocking that occurred at 5:44 p.m. Central Time, almost 4 hours ago. Terry Virts of NASA, the new commander of the International Space Station. He and European Space Agency astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti and Russian cosmonaut Anton Shkaplerov forming a three-person crew for the next 16 days until the launch on March 27th U.S. time of NASA's Scott Kelly, Russian cosmonaut Mikhail Kornienko, and Soyuz commander Gennady Padalka. Kelly and Kornienko to embark on a year in space aboard the International Space Station. And just 23 minutes after landing, Alexander Samokutyaev, the veteran cosmonaut with 331 days in space under his belt, first out of the Soyuz TMA-14M. Again, as is customary, despite the frigid temperatures at the landing zone, the crew members will be bundled up in these reclining chairs to offer an opportunity to regain a bit of equilibrium in their land legs. Samakutiaev, during his tenure on board the International Space Station as part of Expedition 41 and 42, conducted one spacewalk back in October of last year, lasting 3 hours and 38 minutes. NASA astronaut Barry Wilmore back on Earth after 167 days in space, now with a total of 178 days on his 2 flights. Once again, the Soyuz landed upright, as you've seen in this live television from the landing site to the southeast of Bkazkhstan. Alexander Samakutiaev on the left was first out of the Soyuz, followed just minutes later by Butch Wilmore, standing by for the extraction of Elena Serova.
Принял.
Despite poor visibility in the landing zone, as you can see, with fairly significant fog and low clouds, we did not get visual confirmation, certainly did not see the Soyuz descending under its parachute as we typically have been able to see. But nonetheless, the Soyuz landed just about right on target, on time, according to the search and recovery forces.
Okay, let's go. Let's move over here.
And Elena Serova now outside of the top hatch of the Soyuz vehicle.
Everything is normal. Do you need another wipe? Take it easy, slowly. Okay, let's go slowly. Okay, let go.
Elena Serova, the fourth woman cosmonaut in history, behind Valentina Tereshkova, Svetlana Svetskaya, and Elena Kondakova, now out of the Soyuz TMA-14M. All three crew members now having been extracted, having an opportunity to gain their land legs a bit.
Everything looks good.
The other search and recovery helicopters are in the process of arriving at the landing site.
Okay, I'll get it. Yes, you landed. Long time no see. Everything is great, thank you. Is everything okay? Take some measurements. Congratulations on the recent holiday. Hold on, take the measurements now. Checking the pressure, second measurement.
A good view of all three crew members having been quickly extracted from the Soyuz TMA-14M spacecraft.
Checking the blood pressure.
Landing occurring at approximately 9:07 p.m. Central Time. And less than 30 minutes later, all three crew members out of the vehicle and now in those reclining chairs near their capsule.
Checking pulse.
The smile that we have become accustomed to during his time on orbit, Butch Wilmore flashing that smile for the cameras, as well as a thumbs up sign. Well, good news. Everything went by the book despite very sporadic communications with the Soyuz during its descent back to Earth.
Take small sips. Is it too hot? It's good tea. With natural lemon. Alexander, how was landing? I think it went fine. How did the ground meet you? I think well, the previous time it was much harder to land, judging by my experience. Foggy. No, that's fine. Snow, fog. Hi, everybody. Hi to everyone, friends, relatives, everyone who helped. Everything is fine. I am drinking real tea with lemon. I'm feeling fine. We will see you soon at the Cosmonaut Training Center. Okay, thank you. The pressure, and we're measuring pressure. How was your landing? Landing was great. Everything is nominal. The guys are great. Worked very well. Fog, were you worried about the fog? No. Fog didn't scare me at all. Congratulations. Thank you. Would you like to say hi to everyone in Mission Control? I'd like to say hi to my relatives, all the loved ones, hugs and kisses to you, everyone. Thank you. How was landing?
Glad to be back.
I'm glad to be here. You're live with Mission Control. You can say hi. Thank you, guys.
A few words from each of the three crew members. As you heard Butch Wilmore at the end there, he said, I'm glad to be back. Everything went great. Wilmore capped off his time as Expedition 42 commander with a trio of spacewalks with the new expedition commander on the station, Terry Virts, conducted over the past couple of weeks over an 8-day period in which Wilmore and Virts went outside of the Quest airlock of the International Space Station to do all of the preparations and cable routing for the soon-to-be arrival of two new international docking adapters to which U.S. commercial crew vehicles and other visiting vehicles will dock to in the years ahead.
Is everything okay? Is the tent ready? I'm fine, thank you. We're used to it.
This is Mission Control Houston. It has been about 41 minutes since the Soyuz TMA-14M landed on target just to the southeast of Jezkazgan. All three crew members extracted, looking well. They all made comments saying everything was great. Their entry back to Earth was nominal. Butch Wilmore indicating that he's glad to be back on Earth after he and his crewmates spent 167 days in space and aboard the International Space Station.
Can you take a picture of me? Can you take my picture? Hello? Thank you.
RSC Energia personnel will begin the removal of some of the cargo brought back in the Soyuz spacecraft. That will be brought back to the appropriate specialists in Moscow and to the United States.
Do you feel cold? No. No, I'm fine. We can take you to the car to get you warmed up. No, I'm fine.
Elena Serova served as the board engineer, seated in the left seat to the left of Soyuz Commander Alexander Samakutyaev for this evening's landing, as she did 5.5 months ago for the launch of the Soyuz from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Butch Wilmore was seated in the right seat.
Take them into the tent.
There is NASA headquarters chief photographer Bill Ingalls out of his helicopter that flew him from the staging city of Jezkazgan to the landing site, shooting pictures of the crew before they are hoisted one by one in their reclining chairs to be brought, we believe, into a nearby medical tent that was erected just minutes after the Soyuz landed.
Don't leave him alone. How are you feeling? Doing fine. No, you're not going to freeze. Are you cold? Are you taking the video, Anton? Let's load everyone into the tent.